Awesome. So, well, one, thank you, Zia, for hosting us. I really appreciate it. And also thank you to all of RMI for the endless support for the last year. So basically what this presentation is going to be is a retelling, I guess, of our story of how Devin and I and our team built Refuel Technologies, and how we are now going to be collaborating with the US Department of Agriculture as well as UC Santa Cruz to build our idea, which we'll jump into soon. I guess we'll just start off by introducing ourselves. I'm Preet, and I'm a graduating senior majoring in biomolecular engineering and bioinformatics. I'm also an RMI scholar, and I am an undergrad researcher in the corporate lab.
And I'm Devin Virassammy. I am a senior BME student and getting a minor in bioinformatics, and I have been doing research in the Daniel Kim lab.
Yeah, so our story kind of begins a year and a half ago in fall of 2018. Devin and I were already friends at the time, and we were starting to talk about some senior thesis routes that we would take to graduate. And at the time, we weren't really working in BME labs or doing any sort of research pertaining to BME or our major. And so we thought that maybe it would be a great idea to just start doing like our own literature review, our own journal club to prepare for iGEM, which was going to start their own journal club a quarter later. So this led us to meeting weekly, sometimes bi-weekly, to discuss papers or topics that interested us. And the whole point of this was to really just get better at reading literature and getting better at interpreting data, and just totally being critical of the research that was being done. And you know, we came to realize that we had some differing interests as far as research is concerned. I was really interested in reducing plastic waste and just environmentalism as a whole. And I was also really interested in implementing techniques regarding synthetic biology, and how synthetic biology can be used as a tool to alleviate a lot of problems that we face. And if Devin wants to go into what his interests were.
Yeah, I was definitely interested in like energy production, and a part of that is due to what I'll get into later, but seeing the energy needs and demands of like the developing world, and seeing like where my parents grew up and ultimately how that played into getting involved in developing technologies for addressing these issues.
Right. So when we specifically looked at the topics that we were interested in, we found that globally in 2015, around 33 million tons of PET was used, and what PET is a type of plastic. It's actually the most consumed plastic worldwide. And it's actually only recycled at a rate of about 29.1% in the US alone. So that statistic doesn't cover the world. And what we realized was that a lot of developing nations don't have the infrastructure set up to recycle at all. And so a lot of plastic waste is being produced in developing nations just out of pure lack of infrastructure. And so, you know, because the cost of recycling is incredibly expensive, a lot of people just aren't recycling, even in the United States. So we thought that maybe it would be cool to increase that percentage from 29.1% to something much higher. And Devin can go on to talk about energy demands in the world.
Yeah. Hello?
You're good.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, there was this like we looked at the increasing energy demand, and like as it says there, a 30% by 2030, we're expected to see a 50% increase in consumption of energy, and a lot of that is due to the developing world coming online. There's going to be increased demands for energy as there is this growing population that demands access to to the global economy. And it says, it's been said that by the International Energy Agency in 2007, the World Energy Outlook states that global energy needs are expected to grow alongside fossil fuels, which will remain the dominant source. And between 2005 and 2030, energy consumption is expected to increase by that 50% stated there. And this kind of plays back into that story of more people demanding access to energy and it being a source of opportunity. My dad, who's actually on this call right now, he used to study with gas lamps because he had no electricity, but that ability to have access to lights and to power allowed him to study and get the opportunity to advance ultimately. So that plays into like my personal background behind a lot of this. So with that, how did this all come together? So like what we were saying, me and Preet, we were looking at this problem from two different aspects, but we realized we wanted to address either one or the other. And we started to meet, and I had been recovering from an ACL injury a little bit before this, and I had spent some time soul searching about whether I even wanted to be a bioengineer. And that ultimately led me to biofuels and as a potential option. So that is how gives us the context of how we ultimately started talking about these ideas and figuring out that she was into plastic waste and addressing issues with the ocean, and I was into the like energy accessibility. And that ultimately led us to start looking into journals.
Yeah, so I guess once we had identified what the problems we wanted to address were, we decided that we're just going to dive into literature review and see how we can solve these problems. We had kind of no idea in which direction to go to, hence why we did such an extensive literature review. I think we did about 4 months of literature review, and I think collectively we read easily, dozens upon dozens of papers. And from our review, we actually developed our idea, which was to combine the two problems that we wanted to address and break down plastics and turn them into biofuel. And so what this led us to was creating a more viable idea. And so we started collaborating with or actually just getting general advice from Dr. Chad Saltykov from the UCSC MedX department. And he actually helped us build our idea and kind of vet it and make it a viable idea. And so moving forward, what our process really does is we developed a synthetic biology technique to break down PET, the most common consumer plastic utilized, into components of TPA and butanol. And thanks to Chad, his expertise in metabolic pathways was actually incredibly vital in making the project and the idea viable. And I think Devin can talk a little bit more about the uses from TPA and butanol that can come from plastic.
Yeah, so what we were able to do, and this is actually another shout out to Ed Green and Todd Lowe, who I was able to have an opportunity to take their class while we were going through this process of developing this project, the Entrepreneurship and Biotech class, which is a great class, by the way, for developing any sort of idea or research project and kind of giving it a streamline. And through that, we were able to do a little bit more of like the businessy aspects of the things that we wouldn't necessarily think to do or know to do. So we were able to like conduct market research, do things like patent searches, get in contact with different campus organizations. And it also taught us what, like, through this process, kind of figure out things like what TPA could be recycled back into, which was a byproduct actually at the time of our process. And we kind of realized that, hey, there's people actually use this TPA, and it is actually a part of the repolymerization process to make more PET. We also figured out that butanol was a good fuel source in that it can be used in mixtures for things such as gasoline, possibly even jet fuel, or even as drop-in fuel sources directly. And through that, we were able to kind of get this holistic approach of what these products could be used for, who was buying, what were the industries, and which countries they were being bought in and at what levels, and how to conduct things like that. And also, through this class, we met two of our good, met two of our future partners, Justin Redman and Michael Duncan. And I say met because Justin was actually my roommate at the time I was taking this class. And we show up to the class on the first day, and I was like, you're in this class as well. And so it was from there we kind of figured out that we were both kind of interested in developing our own sort of projects or ideas and taking them forward. And although we didn't necessarily work on the same project at the time, we did kind of start getting a sense of what each other was interested in and sort of started collaborating based on different resources and things we were finding. Michael, I say we collaborated because we actually both went to community college together. We both went to DVC, Go Vikings. And we met through there studying chemistry and things. And we had end up both coming to Santa Cruz together, but he played a critical role in developing our process, helping organize the patent searches and things that we were doing, the business modeling as well. So it took a team, and going through this, we were able to find other like-minded individuals, even if they were right in front of us and we didn't know. So that was a great aspect right there. One other thing too is it really helped us to start finding potential funding sources, such as lab spaces that we could be looking into, organizations that we should be applying to. And one of the first areas we targeted were on campus. And we looked around at some of the labs on campus and what type of research they were doing. And this kind of goes into trying different avenues of approaches and not necessarily always getting what you want on the first hit or the first try. And a part of this, we kind of realized that there wasn't too many professors that were doing this type of research that we were looking at. And it was kind of hard to be able to get a grant money for an undergrad-led project if we were just these students that were going to be doing this, and nobody had that particular research focus in mind. And so because of that, we started to look into other local resources and kind of pivoted there. And so we looked into things like Startup Sandbox, which was a part of, again, that class that I took with Ed. And we were able to go on a field trip down there. And we realized it was a great resource. They had tons of bench space. They had opportunities for mentorship. They had rotating speakers coming in, great resource, but you needed a lot of money to get in. And at our stage, we just didn't have money. So we encountered a problem, and we realized that, okay, how do we get money? And then we looked into Big Ideas and Tech for Social Good. Again, two great programs. And they provided us with mentorship, and they provided us with opportunities to help develop the idea, workshops, and other sorts of avenues and resources to help you develop a proposal to present for them with the opportunity to potentially get research funding if they saw it as good. Ultimately, we did not get the resource funding. We were very overcommitted at the time. There's a story of we had grad school and things going on at the time, and we had our big ideas proposal. It was ready to go. We'd got knocked out all like the meaty questions and the main questions, the longer ones that required in-depth responses. And it was just going through the last submission process before submitting it. And I was just kind of going through that like the day of the submission. And I realized they need our student IDs. Preet at the time was taking the GRE. So I kind of just shoot this Hail Mary text, and I kid you not, at 11:59, literally a minute before it's due, somehow she manages to send a response back and we get the application in. So we were very committed at the time, but we got valuable feedback from these organizations to give us what were the steps that we needed to take, what were the avenues that we needed to develop our project, what were some of the holes, and we took steps to address that and increase it.
Right. And so after exploring those on-campus resources and ultimately dealing with 8 rejections, we decided to pursue off-campus resources a little bit further away from Santa Cruz. And that ultimately led us to looking at biotech incubators and accelerators in the Bay Area. And ultimately what we found was a lot of those incubators and accelerators were actually just set up for companies or groups that were a little bit further along than we were. It was for people that had prototypes or ideas already set up, and really we're just looking to hire more people and like build a company. And so once we realized that incubators and accelerators aren't going to be a good place for us, we decided to look a little in like a different direction. And so we decided to look into biohacker spaces. And so we looked into BioCurious, which is I think it has a branch in Santa Clara, so it wasn't too far from Santa Cruz. And it's like a monthly membership fee, and you go in and they have bench space and you go in and do your science project. But one thing we found with them was you kind of had to work on an ongoing project that was established by like the people who ran the hackerspace. It wasn't just something that you could walk into and just start doing your own science. And then we also visited counterculture labs in Oakland, which also seemed to be doing really cool science, but nowhere in the field that we were going into. And they were also incredibly community driven. And they were just working on projects that were, again, decided upon by the people who ran those hacker spaces. And so ultimately what we figured out was we can't find lab space because we don't have funding. But where we did find lab space, particularly in these hacker spaces, the overhead was to basically work on a project that wasn't our own. And so this became our biggest challenge, funding and lab space. And I think about after 10 rejections, around this time, it's fall of 2019, we were ready to give up. It's been a year since we started working together. It had been around 8 to 9 months since we had a full-fledged viable idea, and basically between those 8 to 9 months, we were just looking for lab space and funding. And every turn we took, we got a rejection. And so we really started to lose hope. We weren't going to be able to fund the project, set it up in a manner where it could succeed. And we were incredibly disheartened. Also, we were just, as Devin mentioned, overcommitted. We were pursuing our own research projects in our respective labs. We were traveling to conferences. We were applying to grad school, and also trying to keep this project afloat. And so, I think once we had hit rock bottom, we came to realize how important it was to have a team. because I think we really helped push ourselves to maybe just give it one more shot. And so that's what we did. We had already put in so much effort and work into getting to the point that where we were at. It was hard to let go of the project. So, we gave it one more push, and that finally led us to what Devin's going to talk about next.
Yeah, so we had an idea, right? And we had developed this. We had great help and mentorship from Chad and stuff. So we had an idea, theoretically at least, which we believe would work. But we needed to figure out, okay, now we have this. Where do we go next? And that ultimately led to talking to networks, our extended networks, friends, family, anybody who was willing to listen, more or less, reaching out, emailing people, calling people. And through that ongoing effort, that would ultimately lead us to this here. And this over here on the right side is Bill Orts. He is the director of the bioproducts units at the USDA. And we had gone through this ongoing email exchange with him back and forth, trying to figure out like what they were looking for, if we could possibly set up this meeting with him. And finally, after a series of email exchanges, he agrees. He says, yeah, come in such and such a day. We'll meet with you for about 30 minutes. And so the night before, Preet and I were grinding, we're working on slides, we're working on flow charts explaining our experimental approach, explaining our engineering approach, explaining our scaling mechanism, our business aspects approach, and who are the potential partners that we're looking at working with. And we explain, we have this whole packet, literally a folder of information literally to give to him and prepare this whole pitch. And then we go in, and the first thing he says to us is, I have 10 minutes. A ship has just arrived from a cruise ship is now arriving in the Bay Area, because this is in Albany, California. And he says, yeah, there's this ship that's arrived full of people that potentially might be infected with coronavirus. And I have to go deal with that and how we are going to manage the response to that. And that's a little foreshadowing for what's going to come next. So we sit down, we talk to him, and he's basically just giving us what the program has to offer, what their opportunities there are with working with the USDA, and all this stuff. And we basically, the packet is just there. It's ready, never sees it. But he does say send in a 2-page proposal to him. And then as we're walking out, we meet cross paths with somebody named Leonard, a scientist there as well. And he says, hey, Leonard, do you mind showing these two around the facility? And so we get this great tour of the area. And he shows us some of the other labs that are there, some of the resources that are available, and all these other great opportunities that are available at the facility. And we kind of get a better sense of how we would be able to work and collaborate. And so we finish up and head off, and he tells us we get prepared and hone in on filling out that 2-page proposal. And we finally feel a sense of, okay, things are starting to work. We're starting to finally get to a level of breakthrough. We finally had somebody that is willing to work with us, at least give us the light of day, and we kind of start having this sense of happiness. And
yeah, I think I just want to speak on this for a little bit. I think this was really great for us because, I mean, a couple months before this in-person meeting with Bill, I mean, we were ready to give up. So for someone like a government agency like the USDA willing to listen to us or even allow us to submit a proposal to them was kind of a really great feeling. I definitely felt elated, but I do have to say there was some caution involved with being happy, just because we had dealt with 10 plus rejections at the time. Like, maybe get ahead of ourselves and be too happy about this moment. But we took the 2-page proposal, and so yeah, so we're writing this 2-page proposal in the midst of our winter quarter finals, with the impending global doom caused by coronavirus. And also, most importantly, I think to us at the time was, while also trying to make decisions on graduate school admission offers. And that was really important to us too, because it's a great opportunity for our future. And so we sent in this 2-page proposal to Bill, and now it had just become this waiting game, but also a deadline game. We had to let our schools know, our graduate schools know, whether or not we would be attending by April 15th. And the window in which Bill had our proposal in his hands was actually from, I would say, like the end of March to the beginning of April. Yes. And so we were really, really cutting it close. I mean, we were getting emails from our program directors like, hey, are you going to come to our program? But ultimately, on April 9th, the day after my birthday, it was a great birthday present, I have to say, we found out that Bill and the USDA Bioproducts Unit is willing to take on our project. And we actually had a meeting with Bill. This time it was a Zoom meeting. And he very nonchalantly mentioned, oh yeah, like when you guys start working on this project in July as co-PIs with the senior scientists at the USDA, you can do this, this, and this. And there was like no sense of like, hey, you've been accepted, we like your research proposal. There was none of that. It was like, yeah, so you're doing this project and you're starting in July, get in contact with these people. Which was confusing because we were really expecting like oh, congratulations, you did it. But it was really like, okay, here are your next steps, get to work.
Yeah.
So yeah, ultimately they would give us lab space. They would also allocate resources to our project. And we would be working alongside senior scientists at the USDA, and kind of just running our own project. Which is crazy because as undergrads, like we would have never thought we would have be given the opportunity to be PIs. I mean, we were ready to go to grad school and be grad students for another 4 or 5 years. So yeah, this is great news for us. And now currently we are constantly in contact with the senior scientists at the USDA. And we've also extended a collaboration to Dr. Chad Saltykov here at UCSC to apply for grants. So all 3 entities, the USDA, UCSC, and Refuel, as the public sector, private sector, and also an academic entity, we would be applying to secure long-term funding for the project. And long-term meaning 3+ years down the line. And so we're working on grants right now. We're specifically applying to the Department of Energy BETO programs. And we're actually really excited to share that our proposal, a recent one that we submitted to a grant, was accepted and is going into the next round of evaluation. So really exciting win after being accepted to the USDA. And I think we have a lot, we learned a lot through this process. And I think Devin's going to go into the next slide and talk about one of the main things we learned.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, is having this amazing team built up around us. We were able to really lay in and have trust in each other. Like I think that was like a critical point for us because each of us was able, there was a lot of things that were going on. And in the past, we had gotten to some really, really low lows when we really didn't think we could push anymore. And having a strong team that was able to ultimately trust each other, have trust in each other and support each other, was able to motivate each other and bring each other back out of that rut and ultimately keep on fighting. And, you know, there's been other things now with the coronavirus. We have different things that that are coming into play. You know, we have maybe somebody needs to go take care of their family or just take care of themselves, grad applications and that process. There's a lot of uncertainty during these times. And so having a team that is willing to be able to support and trust and have that solid trust has been critical. Like when we were actually developing the presentation, Preet and I, we described it as we push each other because you need that. You need to be pushed by your teammates. And we push each other to like the edge of a cliff, right? And right when you're about to fall off the cliff, we reach out, grab them, and pull them back in. And I think that's a really good metaphor on the push and pull and the strains that that are important. My oldest brother, he actually has this saying, random saying, that he says the Golden Gate Bridge stands with a healthy level of tension. And I feel like having that has been really helpful in understanding that and where we are in that we ultimately want to do something to help people. Having that ultimate goal has really helped us to continue pursuing and being persistent during these down times. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think so. Some solid takeaways. I think this image does a great job of exemplifying our journey to the USDA, and I think it can apply to almost everyone that's attending this talk too. I mean, really, we often see the success, right? We see people who we deem to be successful, but we really don't understand how they got there. And I think we, at least our team, we were incredibly dedicated to this cause, and I think a lot of our personal and our background was involved in this. We both come from immigrant backgrounds, and we've seen and visited a bunch of you know, our parents' countries and places, and seen the struggle of developing nations. And I think that was something that motivated us to keep moving forward and just keep pushing. And then also just a level of persistence. I think most people, at least I think I know if I was doing this journey alone, I probably would have given up after the third or fourth rejection, quite frankly. And the fact that, you know, we had a team of people who were pushing each other and also just pushing me personally to keep going, like, hey, you know what, we have this, we can do this. If you believe in this project, like, keep going. And this level of persistence really helped us get here. And so I'm really grateful for the team that we've built. And for the level of like support and trust that we've had within each other. And then also the amount of sacrifice that we've made. I think we've definitely sacrificed a lot of sleep. I think our school has probably, our academics have probably taken a hit because of this project. But all in goodwill and faith. I mean, I'm really glad to be where we are now, and any of the sacrifices that we've made haven't gone in vain, and that's what I'm grateful for.
Yeah, most definitely. And adding to that too, you know, if like to the points of like the hard work and the dedication despite the failures, you know, there were times when on Saturday mornings, I remember we'd be like getting up and working on the project, you know, trying to figure out new ideas, new ways to get it done or organized, and figure out new strategies or which type of organisms or things like that we were trying to use or do. And these would be like early Saturday mornings when most people Friday nights or Saturday mornings, they're recovering from their Friday night. And so, you know, it did require sacrificing some of those hangouts or things like that to really commit in and like pursue this goal. But it was worth it, you know, because I feel, I think we all feel that, you know, if we're really passionate about something and it's something that we really care about, that it doesn't necessarily always feel like work. It can be hard and it's draining, but like in those lows and those times of great disappointment, when you have that ultimate goal that you're striving for, something that really drives you, that's what gets you up out of bed on those hard days, or when the things aren't not necessarily not always working. So yeah. With that being said, it does take a lot of people, and there are so many people that we are thankful for here. Personally, for me, like the Daniel Kim Lab, Daniel Kim, Roman, and Sri played major parts in supporting me and helping me through this process. My friends listed here, and all these other great people who've played a part in our journey. And I know Preet has many things to give as well, with her and all her friends.
Yeah, so first and foremost, like I just want to say thank you to the UCSC like community as a whole. I think coming to a school where collaboration is heavily emphasized and also just generally supported has been really helpful for developing me into a scientist, or to developing me into the scientist that I am today. And I just want to, thank the Corbett Dedig lab, everyone in that lab. You guys have been incredibly supportive, the Jeremy Lee lab, the Camarillo lab. So all of these labs have been incredible for the development of who I am today. And also just a huge shout out to RMI. I've only been in the program for a year, but I don't think I've ever met or been a part of a more supportive community. So thank you, Zia, Sandra, and everyone in RMI. You guys are awesome and the best. And I love being a peer among that group. And also a really great big shout out to our friends who are actually attending this talk.